let's dive right into this idea of sequences and cadences. Why should we even bother with cadences versus just going kind of traditional manual tasks?
Oh, that's a great question. And, if you're like 25 or younger, you've probably never known a world without cadences. And by the way, if you heard the way I said out there, yes, I am Canadian. So there we go. We make it an out and about in there. Sorry. So where do we start with this one? We have we have bad habits, Sarah. As sales reps, we have bad habits, and that's okay. Because the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. So what are some of the bad habits? Because the bad habits, to address the bad habits, is why we have cadences. So it's kind of a cause and effect. Let me explain the bad habits. The bad habits are this. And if you're a marketer listening as well to this, you're going to go, yes, preach it, Darryl. Okay, so the bad habit is marketing's gone and spent a lot of money and they've made you a lead and it's hot and they give it to you and you go, thank you. And then 48% of the time, you never, ever call that lead. And if you do, often you'll take, on average, it's either 36 to 63 hours, depending on your study, you want to believe, to follow up on. Okay, so that's a bad habit. Why? Why? Because you should follow up on every lead, because that's a real lead. Money's been spent. The marketers need to show a return on that spend. B, if you call up within the hour, or you reach out within the hour, your chances of actually connecting triple. But if you wait more than 4 hours, it drops like a rock, and beyond 8 hours, don't even bother. So those are the bad habits, number one. Bad habits number two is we tend to make 2 or 3 attempts to engage, and then we give up. But statistically, depending on your study, you need to do 9 to 12 touches before somebody finally goes, oh, did you want to talk to me? Okay, sure, I'll talk to you. Beyond that, they've just tuned you out. All right. So 2 to 3 versus 9 to 12. That's a 3 to 4x difference in effort. Next, when we make those 2 to 3 attempts, they'll span weeks, because we'll make an attempt manually and then we will physically, we may or may not schedule it. And then when it comes up, we're like, yeah, I called them last week. They suck. I'm going to skip this one and call them next week. So again, it's so old. When you finally do reach out to them, they don't know who you are, and it's dead in the water. Finally, last bad habit we're all guilty of is cherry picking. So we're working on lists, maybe HubSpot, maybe Salesforce, maybe a spreadsheet, and you got this list of hot leads you got to follow up on. And what you do is you kind of go, no. Oh, Microsoft, they've got lots of money. I'm going to call them. And so you're cherry picking the leads, which means everybody you just said no to. That's why you're only making 2 to 3 attempts, or 48% never get called in the first place. Get those with the deals. All right. Those are the bad habits. I've set the stage. There's more, but those are common. So what sequences or cadences do simply is they force you as a rep to follow up on a lead instantly. As soon as it's in the system, it should be routed to you. Now, maybe you get to it within an hour or 3 or 4 hours, but it's not days. The second thing it's going to do, it's going to force you to make those 9 to 12, give or take, attempts to engage instead of the 2 to 3. Mm-hmm. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to serve every lead to you, so you can't cherry pick and skip leads. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to eliminate a lot of the admin of actually scheduling follow-up tasks, because it's just auto schedules. And the last thing it does, and I didn't talk about this on the bad habits, but it is a bad habit. A bad habit is we tend to default to the channel of engagement that we ourselves are most comfortable with. So maybe that's email if you're younger. Maybe that's phone if you're older. I'm totally stereotyping. So a cadence is going to say, no. You're going to do an email, then you're going to do a text, then you're going to do a video, then you're going to do a phone call, then you're going to do a postcard, and you're going to, rinse and repeat. So, because you just don't know how that prospect is, what they're going to react to. You call me, I probably won't respond. Email me, 50-50. Send me a LinkedIn message, you've got my attention if it's good. That's me. That's not my boss. So that's why you need sales engagement, to overcome those bad habits so you get a higher ROI in your marketing spend. And you as a sales rep can double or triple your pipeline. And your sales management will love that, because if they can double or triple their pipeline without any additional investment in staff, that's a good thing. So that's a long-winded answer, but there you go.
No, that's great. We've really set the scene here for understanding why we need to bother with cadences in the first place. They're important. We understand the bad habits that they reduce. Now we need to figure out how to actually build them from scratch. So we've got to start off all the way back before we actually start building out that sequence, writing the messaging, whatever. We've got to think about who we're actually sending this cadence or this sequence to. So tell me, Darryl, how you'd walk through that process of understanding your target audience so that you can go ahead and build the best cadence possible.
All right. So I love that you're talking about before we do anything, because too many people just want to jump in and write the emails, right? And I see it over and over again. I see all the cycles being spent on, what's the emails? What's the script? What do we do? What do you think? Let's bounce this back and forth. Let's have a shared Google Doc before we go. Let's hire it out. And then there's a whole nother kettle of fish we could get into. Does sales own it? Does marketing own it, or somebody else? Anyway, you have to know who you're talking to. Who is my ideal customer profile? And then who is the persona within? So this is what marketers do every single day. And sales reps have only started to tune into this in the last couple of years, which is if my ideal customer profile is somebody maybe in high tech, I'll use VanillaSoft. I'll use for simplicity. VanillaSoft's ideal customer profile would be somebody who would be in what we call real world industries. That would be insurance or finance or manufacturing, or a services industry, or maybe a fundraising vertical like higher education. SMBs typically, so maybe less than 25 sales reps or fundraisers. That would be that's my ideal customer profile. So if someone comes to me from technology, I'm not going to want to pursue that because that doesn't fit my sweet spot where my product is, as an example. But the next part is you have to understand, as an ICP, what do those people face? And they face some shared challenges. So for example, if you're SMB, like mine is, they don't have the same resources of an enterprise company because they have different budgets, all that kind of stuff. Also, part of that could be language. And from the VanillaSoft's case, we tend to focus on North America. So if someone came from Japan, I'm not going to want to engage with them, right? So right away, you need to know who you're talking to. The next part is the personas. In other words, think about the buying committee. That's the best way to put it. What's your buying committee when you're selling? Again, if it's VanillaSoft selling a sales engagement platform, I want probably a head of revenue operations, a head of marketing, a head of sales. I might want an actual rank and file, sales rep. And I probably want like an executive C-level officer, maybe the CEO or the CEO or the CFO. And that's kind of 5 people right there. That's probably my buying committee. And then I can, land and expand from there. So the combination of the persona with the ideal customer profile tells me the messaging I'm going to use. With a marketing person, I'm going to say things like, are you tired of sales wasting the leads that you've made for them? I'm never going to say that to a sales rep. They'll get indignant. All right. To a CFO, I'm going to say, would you like to double or triple your pipeline with no additional investment in staff or resources? Absolutely. They're going to want to do that. So you get the idea is that you're actually tailoring the message to your people you want to engage because that's what's going to drive the messaging you use in your emails, in your SMSs, in your phone call scripts, in your social touches, etc. Because too many of you are speaking features and functions. Nobody cares about your features and functions. You want to make it relevant and real and speak to their pains. You've heard it all before. I won't get into the nitty gritty. There's another show for that. But stop with the features and functions. Your cadence needs to speak to them and their role and what keeps them up at night. So for example, if someone were to look at me, they would maybe send me, maybe one of their touches would be, hey, Darryl, I see a lot of openings. I see you just raised some money. I bet you've got a bigger number to hit. Do you have a plan? No features and functions, but that's relevant. Now, of course, the plan might be, well, what if I could double or triple your pipeline? Let me talk to you about VanillaSoft. You get the idea where I'm going with that down the road. But that's the messaging you want to do. So you're right. You nailed it, Sarah. You got to know the ICP. You got to know the persona so you could actually have messaging that's going to convert. Because what's the point of doing a cadence if it never converts?